Have a little of the romanticism, have your little Amelie moments, romance yourself, take yourself to the museum or to a cheeseburger in Red Hook or, like wear the outfit, put yourself in a place where something interesting can happen or unfold. Because if you don't, you're going to wake up 30 years later with no great love or no great career or no great stories.
Welcome to Character. I'm Anne Benveniste. These are honest conversations with New Yorkers who inspire me about their journey to figuring out who they are, what they want to say, and the role the city played in the process. My guest today is Amy Van Doran. Amy is the city's coolest matchmaker. Her journey from a rather unconventional childhood, growing up at a junkyard outside of NASA, to ultimately creating her own successful matchmaking agency, the Modern Love Club, is an example of what happens when you combine authenticity with spirituality. Amy was actually the first person I thought of interviewing when I developed the concept for Character, so I'm so excited to dive in. Hi, my guest today is Amy Van Doran, who is a matchmaker and the CEO and founder of the Modern Love Club. I'm so glad you're here because I'm relaunching the podcast. It's really about having conversations with people who I think have a strong sense of identity, right? About how they figured out who they are and how they intentionally express that. And I've always had you in my mind as a good guest for that conversation. So I always say in my work that careers are like romantic relationships. And I do think a lot of the parallels and things I want to communicate about how to build an energizing career and life you love are very similar to some of the narratives that you talk about in dating. So we can get into that.
I love that.
Amazing.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. I think let's start at the beginning. Always a good place to start. You had let's say, a more unconventional childhood.
Yeah, I think we could even say that was an understatement. Whenever I tell people about my childhood, like one of two things come up. They're either like, you're a pathological liar, in which case I'm like, wow, I'm really creative. Or people get really sad. But I just like want to preface this with like, I'm not sad about my childhood. I'm like I think I picked like the right like wormhole to enter this earth into. So I was born to my deaf mother. She kind of like was a beautiful dancer on the beach in Central Florida. She probably like wasn't like the best candidate to be a mother. I think met my dad once at like a tiki bar in Central Florida, and he didn't know sign language, and she could only communicate during sign language, and he drank, and she never had a sip of alcohol. And so I was living with my mom, truly just like was not meant to be my mother. And I wasn't learning how to speak, and I was only doing sign language and in this like trailer park in Florida. And then my grandparents, and when I say grandparents, I mean like these two people. So my grandma, who was like a wild hippie who, worshiped Janis Joplin and had a motorcycle, and she was like a circus performer dropout. I guess we'll say they adopted me. And this guy that she was dating, who was like her much younger boyfriend, who like I've later figured out was a drug dealer. We had this junkyard outside of Kennedy Space Center. So it was like a junkyard filled with space junk and these two wild, kind of brilliant, eccentric bohemian characters, which, on paper and in the movie are like so glamorous and enthralling. And I really do think they were the two most interesting people I'd ever met. But they were also truly wildly unfit to be in charge of a child. But the good news is like, I really didn't require too much. And like, I had the whole junkyard and I had the alligators to like learn from. But yeah, very, very latchkey childhood. And I think I learned pretty early on to just like try to be like the most charming child possible so I could like get people to drive me to school or give me food. And so I definitely came out of the whole situation a little unusual, a little bit scrappy. Because I watched a lot of interviews with you before this, but one of the things that you said that I thought was super powerful was, these grandparents of yours that raised you. You said they taught me to be myself and not apologize for it. Yeah. I mean, so there's never any parameter for normal. And so I never had that awareness or fear or shame, whether it be around how I'm dressed. I could have never fit in because I was raised as like an alien, basically. And so, yeah, I've always just kind of unapologetically been myself because I really don't know how to be any other way. I mean, they're probably just too busy being like insane people, but there's never any pushback. I remember coming home from school one day trying to like impress them with how like rebellious I was, and I had like a mohawk and I'd gotten a tattoo. and I was 15, and like they didn't even notice, like so there's no I could not get a rise out of these people. I always just did exactly what I wanted whenever I wanted, for better or for worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I'm sure there is things that you wish you had, in that environment, but I think there's a huge gift in this very early on connecting with yourself and like being okay to be, as you say, unapologetically yourself. Because I think for me and the work that I do, so much of what I see in my clients is like the reason they're unhappy and the reason they're, in their career, in their personal life, they're misaligned is because they are conforming to like a version of who they think they need to be, either from their family or society or their community, whatever. And it's so much of the work is about letting go of those frameworks and saying like, who actually are you? Let's connect to that and let's express that. And it sounds like you had that from the off.
I always was connected to my instincts because, there was, if you grow up poor, you can't become more poor than poor. So there's no risk in trying to do anything because, the fact that, I left Florida and can read was kind of like already like, bravo, she won. You're not addicted to crack. Congratulations. But there's also on the opposite side, like when I came to New York when I was, I don't know, 18, I came because I wanted to be a durational performance artist. Like
What does that mean, duration?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like a form of performance art that like no one really cares. Like people already are like performance art, and then they're like durational performance art. That's performance art that deals with like time. So like Marina Abramovich
Yes.
at like the MoMA sitting and staring at people. And
Yeah.
so just like I was already poor. It didn't matter. I could go sit out on the street and like make weird performance art pieces for like no one wanted it. But that performance art piece actually ended up turning into my matchmaking career.
Yes, and I really want to talk about that. But before we get there, like, how did you know you wanted to do durational performance art?
So I always wanted to do things that would kind of disrupt people's experience of the day-to-day world and kind of like wake them up to the moment. Where I got that idea in this junkyard in Florida, I don't know. I think sometimes you just get downloads, but I've always been very consistent with all of my art has always been surrounding love, loneliness, time, and it's been very consistent since like, I started writing plays when I was in like first grade. I think, the loneliness of my first language being sign language and not being around other children, like I really got to incubate and kind of marinate in myself because there was no one else around,
Yeah, that must have been crazy.
I mean, it's just like it was such a different relationship with time. Like you're just like, when you're a kid, you don't know how long time is. And so I just remember just being like, oh my God, I'm going to be a kid forever.
The reason we feel that like time speeds up as we get older is because each year is like as a percentage less of our total life, right? So when you're like 5 years old, one year is like 20% of your
Right.
life. But when you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 1 year's 1/40th
Wow.
of your life.
That
So
makes sense. But yeah, so I started, this performance piece because I just like hearing people's stories, probably trying to figure out how to be a person, right? But yeah, so I'd sit in this park by City Hall with like this like pop-up free love advice sign, and I would sit there like early morning to nighttime. I would not go to the bathroom. I would not eat. If it rained, I had my little umbrella.
very Marina Abramovich.
Or like Lucy from Charlie Brown. But I was like very devoted. But yeah, so I started with this little booth and asking people questions. And even in elementary school, I had like mixers where like all the girls would secretly tell me the guys they liked and I'd invite them to the mall. Like even matching like objects in my house. Like I get that whenever the thing goes to where it goes, like if I can put the thing where it belongs, not like cleanliness, but like find the job or find the church or get you your best friend. Like it's just, I don't know. It's so satisfying.
That's always what I'm looking for in my clients. What's that thing that you just do anyways?
Yeah.
The conversations I now have with clients are conversations I was having with my friends and with my team when I used to manage a team in advertising. Anyways, it was my favorite part of my job. And so then I was like, okay, let's just take the part of the job that feels super fun and just make that
Yeah.
what I get paid to do every day. And so now I don't feel stressed. Having this conversation with you, which is like my job, is like I am just being myself right now. This is the kind of conversation I have at a party with someone. I like to get real deep.
Same. I have unlimited energy to, like, everyone's like, how can you have interviewed, over 15,000 people? Well, because it's what I like to do,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I tried to do my taxes last week and I was just like weeping. I was like, what? And like I shouldn't be doing my taxes.
No,
Like
higher.
I should be actively listening to people tell me about like their early childhood trauma, because that's what I'm built for. I've been doing lines of people's stories for like the last 16 years and I'm just getting higher and higher. Like I love it.
But I think the other thing that occurred to me as you were telling your story is, because it reminds me of my own journey, it's like you felt really lonely as a kid and now you have a career where you like solve loneliness. I think as a kid, like I felt very disconnected to myself. I didn't feel like I was in a place where that was reinforced. I was very much told who I should be. And so now I help people like unwind from that. Right. And sometimes like these wounds that we have become our greatest gifts, right? Because we have been through that and we had to learn from that. And then we can share that gift from that wound as our work.
And you can have compassion for it because you've experienced it. To people that these things come easily to, they're not going to be able to teach it. There has to be a bridge.
I love that. Yeah. Rick Rubin, that book he wrote a couple years ago, he said, be the character in your own story, right? And see your life as this like unfolding story. So rather than like solving it, it's like this adventure, this like, okay, what's going to happen next? Like this turn of events. Okay, what's going to happen now? And that helps me sometimes when I'm feeling a bit down. I'm like, all right.
Like we're all in these our own little plays. If you're not engaged with that story, like no one else is going to like want to pick it up and read it or be engaged. True. But have a little of the romanticism, have your little Amelie moments, or like, romance yourself, take yourself to the museum or to a cheeseburger in Red Hook, or like wear the outfit, put yourself in a place where something interesting can happen or unfold. Because if you don't, you're going to wake up 30 years later with no great love or no great career or no great stories.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's like all of this stuff, it's about like expressing yourself, right? And it's, how can you connect to yourself and just like find a way to go out there and play, like go into life and be one of the creators, like create your own life, go have fun and play and express, instead of, I know sometimes people pick, okay, I'll have life option B. And now I fit myself into this mold of like life option B. And it's also so boring that way.
It's so boring. And people, they're coming in and they're like, all right, my boyfriend, like I got a list the other day. He has to be over 6'4". He has to be Jewish, but appreciate my like love of Christmas. And I won't. So like this crazy fucking list. And I was like, wow, first of all, there's like no magic. Like there's no discovery. Like I really like want whatever love I have to be like different than like what I've like reduced it to. Our consciousness has been taken over by our cell phones, and all of the men that are coming to me, they're on like Instagram all day. So now they think that all the women look like these are just filters. Like, and so everyone's becoming rapidly disembodied and they're just like doom scrolling for hours. And so it's not even one thing. It was like, yeah, let's play. But like right now, it's just truly radical to exist in a body and to not be behind a computer, because most people are behind computers all day long. And especially in New York, I was like, why am I so bored by New York? And I was like, the rent's so expensive. We all have to have computer jobs.
Yeah.
Like that you can't really afford your rent and be like have a job that like you get to like use your physical form with that often. Like it's radical to have a body.
It is so true. I have a lot of my clients come in and like, I just don't want to sit in front of a fucking computer. Do you know what I mean? I want like a job where I get to use my hands, I get to use my body. It's a very common criteria people are striving for with the remodeling. But one of the things I've thought a lot about recently, and I wanted to ask you today, is I have this whole philosophy that because of dating apps, people are like have lost the ability to like flirt with people in public and like go up to people in public. It's like we aren't getting our reps in to like practice that art, let's say. That's not even like just that.
The muscle's gone. The muscle is gone.
Of like going up to someone and saying something, right? And seeing how it lands. It's just like no one knows how to do it. So when you're out, I think that people are less likely to introduce people.
Yeah, I'm really worried about people. We have created an environment where if a guy wants to take a risk and try to flirt, if you're not attracted to them, there's a liability as
Mm.
well. And so it's not, a lot of the really good guys, because they're afraid of being the bad guys, have put themselves in a corner. Women are not rewarding the good guys. They're not like, oh, he's like, God, he's so nice. I love that, because we're so used to, we're traumatized. And so because we're dating from a traumatized place and from a triggered place, collectively, our nervous systems are reading things incorrectly. And so until we start rewarding and encouraging, like if someone does make a risk, like you don't have to like them back, but you can be like, hey, that was like really vulnerable and bold of you. Thank you so much. That really made me feel attractive. And there's no really great role models for the men, right? Like I have me and my women friends, I have talking circles for days. The men, they need community. They're lonely, they're confused. They don't have places where they can workshop ideas. The technology is actually radicalizing a lot of the men to become worse.
You recommend like learning how to go up to people in your life and like talk to men or whoever you're interested in, like talk to people, like build relationships. From my perspective, like all the work I've been doing on career, if you want to create a career you love, you have to go talk to people. You have to ask them your questions and concerns. You have to talk to people doing the things that you're interested in. You have to like put yourself into the communities where they are focused on the topics you want to work on. Learning how to have conversations is like a core part of what I teach my clients, and learning how to do those in a really intentional and effective way. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about, what you think the importance of having conversations and how it bleeds into your work.
It's so funny because I started off like the first, 8 years of my life totally silent, only doing sign language. And then my grandpa's like, when you started talking, you just like did not stop. And I am so belligerent. I'm like at the coffee shop, I'm like talk, 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 talk. And I'm like asking strangers things, and I'm asking people, like I'm like on the street in like Red Hook. I'm like, do you have a swimming pool? Or like, what's going on? Like, what do you eat? Like I've literally, no person can walk by me untalked at for whatever reason. Like, and it is because I've been building communities, right? So like when I was in the East Village, I had the art gallery. So and for me, it's also like a matter of safety. I need to know everyone that's around me, what they're up to, what's their MO. But yeah, everything that's ever come to me has become, I haven't fixed my website. I haven't done it like Instagram posts. Like everything that's ever come to me is just my belligerent curiosity and talking to people. And I do think that is, and it's not like I'm not using it to get things. I really am just very curious as to what's happening inside of every single person. But the breakthrough I had in the last year, I had a big breakup. I was like, got to burn my life down. I was like, I'll move into the Chelsea Hotel, then I'll join a polyamorous leaning commune. And the commune, quote, the commune and the community and watching people form relationships in communities has been like the really big breakthrough, because you're forced to be around people. And instead of like, if you don't like someone, because you live with them, you don't quit them. You have to use language to build a bridge. And so through that, there's actual breakthroughs. And through that, like if you're in community, you see who's around. So instead of just being like, there's that person that's really hot on Raya that I'd like to talk to, but that person's not going to necessarily want to date you. But like when you're in community, you can kind of see like who's around and what's available, and you choose who you date through like, who did I do dishes with? What was that chemistry like? Do we have the same values of community building? Dating through communities, I think, is going to be kind of the answer. I have the commune. I'll go back in January. I'm going to another community next month. I am, the cruise ship director for, I'll go to Summit, or I'll go to every conference, or I run the Sunset Watching Club in Red Hook, or like the Ladies Art Club. Like through these communities is how we're going to find connections and people that actually are able to exist with people and collaborate and communicate. And it'll be more surprising than what you find when you're plugging in like an algorithm. But I guarantee you, like your life it works better when you date this way.
I love that. Yeah, everyone should be building community around your interests.
And if you're like, I don't have friends, well, lots of other people don't have friends. Make a club, like literally like Sunset Club. Anyone can make a Sunset Club. You just say, Wednesdays, and I just invite people on the street. Now there's like 300 people. But yeah, Sunset Club, everyone just knows like Wednesdays around the time the sun goes down, we go meet at Valentino Park. So if you're hearing this and you're lonely, just and you can actually treat everything like Sunset Club. Even if it's not Sunset Club, you can still just go to the park and assume that the strangers in the park are there for Sunset Club. And you can be like, are you there for Sunset Club? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then you can just make friends that way.
Just sometimes you have to do the little bit of uncomfortable thing, right? And that's what I think with technology we're not as used to. It's like doing that little uncomfortable social thing. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. And like once you do it a couple of times, you'll realize actually it's like not that big a deal.
We are in a loneliness crisis. Like the average American male has 0.5 friends. That's less than one. We know that it is more harmful to longevity than smoking cigarettes, than being an alcoholic. It is the big killer, and it's especially a big killer amongst American men. But most people don't have community, or they don't know where to start.
In my own development, this has been a big unlock for me. And it's a very spiritual concept, this idea of like receiving, of kind of sitting and letting it come to you. This idea that, if you create, the person that feels good inside, that energy will be this like vibrational match for the person or the thing, whatever it is that you want in your life. The more connected I am with myself, the more and the happier I feel in that identity and in my life. It's like I then become an energetic match for I'm vibrating at my purest frequency. And so I'm going to be able to very easily see what's the right match for me because I'm so attuned to my own frequency that I can feel when there's dissonance. It's required me to stop doing and start like resting and like being, because I don't think you can hear those signals when you're in like go, go, go mode.
Yeah, of course not.
But do you have a spiritual practice?
I'm reading Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism right now. And maybe I should be calling in more things and bringing out the, like manifesting. I think for so long I was definitely like in survival mode. But I mean, my first kind of relationship with spirituality was as a child. I was like, I'm not going to survive this childhood unless like we figure out something. I'd always go to the end of the dirt road, and then I would get into a car, and one car was going to the Barnes and Noble. And so I'm like crying, and I'm like, I can't, I'm 8. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And literally a book by Krishnamurti hit me in the head, and I opened it up, and it's like, things are as they are. And it began a very beloved and long journey with Buddhism, which, and I'm always like, be your own guru, whatever. But I always keep coming back to Buddhism. And I particularly am in love with Tibetan Buddhism. And it has literally just saved my life over and over and over again. And there's always like new things. Tibetan Buddhism is probably like the great love of my life. And, you don't have to be like a perfect Buddhist. You can kind of let it show up in your life in the way that it, there's flexibility with it. But yeah, I flirt with a lot of different things. But yeah, the Buddhism, and it's just so practical. Matchmaking is the most spiritual thing because like I'm here to learn love and teach love in the same lifetime, which I think is one of the great reasons why I'm able to stay so present with my matchmaking practice and so curious and not get locked into easy prescriptions. And I think because it's a challenge for me, I think I'm getting really deep with the subject. And so I'm a certain way, I used to hold a lot of shame around being like, all right, I'm a matchmaker. I'm over a certain age. I haven't been married. Like I thought I'd be like in my 3rd marriage by now. Like really? Like what happened? But I'm glad that it's been such a big question and it's keeping me so engaged. And I think spiritually there is a real reason for that. And I like to think at the end of like these hundreds of marriages I've created that maybe we have something really nice coming down the pipeline. Not that that's how karma works, but if it pays off in a great love, like I'm definitely welcoming that.
I believe that for you, cosmically. But thank you so much for sharing that. The concept I'm really excited about at the moment is just a general belief that spirituality is an imperative part of the human existence and like a healthy part of your diet. Because if we think about the history of humanity, spirituality is as old as humanity, right? So the very earliest architectural things that we have are spiritual, like deity carvings, right? And prayers to like fertility gods, right? So if we look at it from a scientific perspective, my dad was a scientist, but belief in something greater how do you move through emotional dissonance quickly and efficiently, right? Like be with it if it's there, but move through it so that you can get into, as my coach Victoria Song would say, like a more expansive place, like an expansive emotional place. And the more that we can be in an open, expansive emotional place, the more like life flows to us and things are easier, right? And that all starts with your thoughts, right? You have to cultivate beliefs that make you emotionally feel, trusting and optimistic and hopeful and have self-belief and all of that. And so spirituality, I think, is this gap filler between what we know and what we don't know that keeps us in expansion. Right. So, think about all of the hardship that humanity has been through, like what has kept humanity like open and striving and creating is like a belief in something greater. And so I think evolutionarily, like as humans, it's like encoded in our DNA to believe in something. And whatever that belief is, it doesn't really matter. Like choose your own adventure here. There's so many different structures to choose from. Choose the one that resonates with you, make up your own, choose things from different places. But everyone should have their own spiritual practice. And it could be Tibetan Buddhism, or it could be something like very humanist, right? Your belief in yourself and humanity and your ability to like do whatever you want to do, right? That could also be your spiritual belief. But I just think having some sort of structure is really important to tether and to keep you in a hopeful place. I mean, you said as a child, you like desperately needed something to like carry you through. From hearing your story, like that was probably a core part of what allowed you to stay present and connected to yourself as a kid.
Yeah, I think that if I was the same kid and I didn't find something to connect to, I wouldn't have made it. When I see successful couples, like it's not the relationship isn't like, are you making me happy? The one person, the other person, and then they have a third point of focus, whether that be the child or God or art or community, but they're not focused on like the two. It's there has to be a third separate thing to kind of focus on. And yeah, your religion, it could be basketball, it could be, but yeah, I think just finding something to a North Star to kind of keep you not in the weeds of day-to-day life.
The process of creating an energizing career that you love, and this is what I've been working on for the past 5 years, there is this liminal period where you kind of are getting closer to understanding what you want, and or maybe you even know, but it's not happening yet because you haven't met the right person and you haven't, like, it just hasn't happened yet. And keeping yourself like believing and taking action and like not just settling for something quickly to like because so many people feel uncomfortable in that moment. They just want the resolution immediately. And so what can happen to people is they just reach for something. And I've done that with men. I can't tell you like how many times I reached for a relationship and like made it happen because I felt uncomfortable. I've done that with jobs. This like I haven't found the right job yet, but this person wants to hire me. It doesn't really feel right, but like I'll make it work.
Mhm.
Right. And every time I've done that, these have been very misaligned decisions for me. If in those spaces you can hold out belief and trust in the universe is looking out for you, this or something even better, whatever the mantra is that helps you feel trusting in the timing of your life and that the right things are going to come to you, that's going to allow you that like spaciousness to really choose something that is an aligned decision for you, the right decision for you.
A great career, a great relationship, or an interesting life, it's gonna require some boldness. These jobs don't come to people who are just, like, sitting in their home waiting for someone to, like, call them. And
Totally.
these relationships, like, if you want a great big relationship, it's not gonna be just sitting around, on Hinge hoping that, like, someone messages you. You're probably gonna be doing something really cool and, like, living your life and, like, the person that my match is probably not sitting in a dark room or on a toilet just, like, scrolling through Hinge. They're probably, like, out there doing some cool shit, and, like, maybe I'll be doing some cool shit, and then maybe we can do some cool shit together.
Let's talk about your style and then we're going to wrap it up.
Alright.
I think very aligned people often have a very intentional way that they present themselves through style. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, how do you use your clothes to express yourself and what are you trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first way we communicate with people, and
Mhm.
so whether you're looking for a job or a partner or your friend group or, like, for me, I do let my relationship, and I've always been highly aesthetic, my relationship with fashion and beauty it does like 80% of my work for me, right? My orange hair has gotten me in every major publication. I think I dress a little less kooky than when I was younger, mostly because I realized like the patterns on my clothes were amazing, but also like distracting to my ADD. I definitely use fashion to bring me into situations that I want to be in and to design the kind of person that I want to be in, and kind of almost like maybe in the way that a person might manifest things. And so like if I want to be invited to a cool party, like I will dress already to like be invited to the party. So like I'll be like, okay, I have my new Issey Miyake purple caftan. I'm just gonna wander the streets, and someone will eventually invite me to the party. During this summer, I do not take my bathing suit off. I am wearing my bathing suit under my clothes everywhere in case there is a pool party to be invited to. I'm just like ready for the pool party. I'm ready for the spontaneous trip to the beach, and I am willing it into. But yeah, I really dress to bring joy to others and to bring joy to myself. And so does this fabric turn on my senses. Like right now, like I'm dressed for bicycle safety, almost like the apocalypse. Like I'm in a durable kind of get shit done moment, but also like, I don't know, like kind of like apocalypse junk mermaid goddess.
That's what the name of this episode is.
Yeah. They're like, it's so funny because it's like, Amy's like this billionaire matchmaker, and like, what is she doing? She's just like sitting at the shore playing with this like washed up piece of rope. And I like look at this piece of rope in the same way that someone might look at like a Chanel bag. But I do think when people find an alignment with who they are on the inside with their outside, then the people that are looking for them can find them. And so you're doing people a favor.
Totally. I think it's just further like honing your frequency to, who you are. The better I feel in my clothes, the better I feel overall. And then like that feeling just helps me in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, because you're comfortable.
Exactly. I feel comfortable. I feel more powerful. And I mean that in like the best sense of the word. I like feel embodied like and in my power because I'm like, it's just additional alignment.
The French are very good with this. Like Americans are like, oh my God, you got a new dress. That's amazing. I'm like, great, more single-use trash in the landfill. But like, Europeans are like, it's so good to see you. You're wearing my favorite dress. That favorite dress that they've had so many memories with is an old friend. And it's like, you get to relive those things. And objects that the more they're loved, kind of like the Velveteen Rabbit, the more real with time. And so if something is threadbare or lived in or has a journey like that, to me, that realness is so much more interesting than just like throwing something on from this season in order to like feel like you're passing as like a certain kind of person in society. And I think that, you can't buy authenticity. And once you become like real, you can't become unreal. And for me, I love seeing people's relationship with clothing kind of reflect that value.
That's such a good quote. Once you become real, you can't become unreal.
That's from the Velveteen Rabbit,
which
is
I
like,
should really read.
It's like, for the Velveteen Rabbit to me is like, maybe the most important thing I've ever read. So if you haven't, you have to reread it. It's really important.
Okay, amazing. One of the things I say to my clients is, people are always looking for the map. Like, what's the answer? Where's the map? What's the compass? Where am I supposed to go? And it's like, once you have the connection to yourself, you always have the map. Once you have that, you always feel, because then you can feel energetically what's a yes and what's a no. So this is, to me, the map is inside.
And no one's going to give you the map. Like no guru, no style advisor, no matchmaker. Like you can hire everyone, but if someone's doing anything other than telling you to tune into what's your reality, then they're a charlatan. They're taking your money, and it's very dangerous. So please, just
watch out.
Be your own guru.
Be your own guru,
but also still hire us.
Hire us to help you find yourself. All right, so let's wrap it up here. 2 questions. What advice do you have for someone trying to figure out who they are and redesign their career and life accordingly?
I think make mistakes, try on different things. I remember in high school, I was like, am I a punk rocker? And like one week I'd come to school in my punk rock clothes. The next week I'm like, am I emo? And I come in my emo clothes, and everyone called me a poser. But eventually I figured out like what I was up to, which was like a trash mermaid. But yeah, just try things on and like have a sense of humor about it. Know that you're a work in progress and you can fail or you can hit the wrong note, and that's okay. But yeah, just experiment, play.
And if you could put a message on a billboard for everyone to see, What would it say?
If you had a billboard in Times Square, what would it say?
Yeah.
And so my first thing was like, if you have a billboard in Times Square, like the billboard would say like, leave Times Square. And then I was like, if I had a billboard in Times Square, obviously I would just advertise my business. It'd be like, go to modernloveclub.com, wonderful single people of Earth. Life is short. Come let me matchmake you. Modernloveclub.com, fill out our Rolodex.
I love that.
So I was just like, what would I do with my billboard? I'd advertise my business so we can have more love happen.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a great answer.
So no inspiring quotes. You'll have to get those elsewhere. My billboard is for advertising my company.
Perfect. Amy, thank you so much for coming on and being so open with me and having such an interesting conversation.
It was so fun hanging out.
Yeah, I loved it as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into Character. I hope these stories inspire you to trust yourself, bet on yourself, and do the work where needed. You are the artist of your life. Go create something unique and awesome. Don't forget to subscribe to the Character Substack. The link is in the show notes. Here you'll get photos of each guest in their creative space, alongside their New York City recommendations. I also share my analysis as a coach on why each guest is so aligned and thriving. And if you're enjoying the show, follow or leave a review. It helps other people like you find and get value from the podcast too. The music on this podcast was arranged by the New York-based artist, DJ, producer, and underground legend Michael Magden.